Are champions born or made?
That's a great question. Um, I, for me, I think in a way it was something I was born with. Um, it was a desire inside of me that, and I think I say in my book something like, I felt like not only could I be the best, but that I should be the best. And that whatever I was born with, I felt I had what it took.
Shannon Eastin, also known as Lady Ref, was the first woman to become a referee in the NFL. Her story is one of focus, perseverance, and total passion. She tells her story in her book, Lady Ref, which is being made into a film. Please welcome Shannon Eastin to Bump in the Road. Shannon, welcome to Bump in the Road. If you would, tell us your story.
Thank you, first of all, Pat, for having me today. It's truly a pleasure to speak with you and to talk about some of the bumps in my road. Um, my story is one that is definitely something that there was a lot of perseverance involved, a lot of hard work, a lot of drive. A drive that for me started when I was very young in a sport called judo. That was where I first developed this probably a little bit of an unnatural discipline for a kid. Um, that as a young age, I just wanted to compete. I wanted to be the best. And the sport that I was drawn to was a sport called judo. And the first sport that I was actually drawn to was football, but my mom said that that was not going to be possible for me to play football. So we landed on judo as a compromise. So from a young age, I started competing, started doing everything I could to be the best at that sport, and competed for about 8 years until I was 15. And then at that age, judo was not an Olympic sport for women. And so I had to make a decision if I was going to continue for another couple years for it just to be a demonstration sport. And then on top of that, another 4 years before it became a medal sport. And at that point, I was a 15-year-old girl, and I just decided I did not have it in me to go another 7 years to potentially be an Olympic athlete. So at that point, I changed my focus, started doing some other things. Officiating, which is where my story really kind of goes as I move on in life, was something that I did not even know or consider as something that I wanted to do until I was 26 years old. I love sports. I loved watching football, but I never thought about officiating. And it wasn't until I was, like I said, 26. I was coaching some Christian athlete ministries camps. And as coaches in between those games of coaching our kids, we had to grab a whistle and officiate as well. And that was the moment that I said, I never thought about this. And it was kind of a light bulb moment for me. And from that point forward, it was officiating 100%. So I started checking into how do you get started? How do you get started in high school? I was thinking basketball was going to be the route that I was going to go. And I did work basketball at a high level for about 7 years. But I always in the back of my head had this love for the game of football. And so while waiting for basketball season, I checked into a local association, and I just said, would it be, kind of crazy for a female to try to officiate a sport that there weren't really many women officiating, and got surrounded with some great individuals, and I was off. Football became my focus, and from the moment I stepped on a football field, the goal for me was to be in the National Football League. It felt realistic. It didn't feel like something that I couldn't achieve. Now, granted, it was going to be something that I was going to meet a lot of resistance, which I did. But I just was full steam ahead. And that's kind of where my story kind of takes off is, and there's a lot more to it. So I don't know. Is there any questions in particular you want to kind of go from there?
So many. I was really stunned at what it takes to become an official. I had no idea of all the different levels of information you had to master, the practical application of all this. Talk about that a little bit because it opened a door to football that I never thought of before.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more involved. I think people they see the officials and they're like, "Oh, you just step on the field," but no, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of studying the rules, which, to be honest with you, is not the most important thing. It is important to know the rules, but knowing the rules, you can quote the rule book inside and out, and that is not going to make a good official. I think it takes a person who has a presence, an ability to communicate, to step on a field or to step on a court and not be intimidated by the surroundings, but to show up like you belong, and that nothing is going to happen that is going to shake you in those very sometimes heated or volatile moments, that you're in complete control of your emotions, because as you know, sports is very emotional from every level, from the kids, the coaches, the parents, and as officials, we are the one component that we cannot be emotional. And so I think emotional stability in an official is very important. The ability to communicate is very important. And again, knowing the rules is something you got to do for sure. And then being in shape is important. It's if you get out there and you don't look the part, you're not believable. You lose credibility. So there's a lot, and there's a lot to move up to levels, higher levels. You start at Pop Warner football or Pee Wee basketball, and you work your way up through high school, and then potentially junior college and Division II, Division I, and then wherever you aspire to go. And that's not for everybody. There are a lot of officials, they just aspire to be the best high school official they can be, and that's perfect. For me, I just had aspirations that were quite a bit beyond that. And I was willing and ready to do whatever it took to make sure I got to that level that I was trying to achieve.
I think it's fair to call you a champion. Your drive to win is just admirable. Are champions born or made?
That's a great question. Um, I, for me, I think in a way it was something I was born with. It was a desire inside of me that, and I think I say in my book something like, I felt like not only could I be the best, but that I should be the best. And that whatever I was born with, I felt I had what it took. Now, is everybody born with that desire? I know there's a lot of athletes that some have natural ability, others have to work very hard. Well, look at Michael Jordan. He was cut from his high school basketball team. Granted, lots of natural ability, but he had to work hard, and look what he did. So I think it could go both ways. I think for me, I definitely worked hard. Don't get me wrong. But I also think that maybe I was born with a little something that that's given me an edge.
One of the things that really strikes me about martial arts, and particularly your judo career, is the intense focus, the present moment focus it takes to do a sport like that. Is that something that was cultivated as part of your training, or how did you integrate that into not only your sports life, but the rest of your life?
I think I hate to say I don't think I was a normal child, because even my friends kind of would tease me because I had a discipline as a kid that was not really natural for a kid. And I don't know if that's just because I knew what it was going to take to reach those goals, but it was something that I didn't have. I know there are parents that, they got to encourage their kids and the kids don't want to go to practice and things like that, where I was kind of the opposite. I knew where I needed to be in order to be the best, and I didn't fight it. I didn't love some of the disciplines of judo. I didn't love that I had to make weight all the time, so I was constantly on a diet. But I also knew that's what I had to do to compete at the particular weight class I wanted to be at. So I think judo is a sport that is completely it is all about discipline, and it's definitely a sport that I don't think is for everybody. It takes a lot of determination, a lot of hard work. Like I said, the diet can be pretty intense, but I, for some odd reason, as a child, I just recognized what I had to do and was willing to do it, really with little complaints. Now I'm a kid. You're always going to have some, but for the most part, I wasn't complaining through it. I knew what I had to do, and I was willing to do it.
Throughout your career, did you set goals by baby steps or did you have a grand goal that just drew you?
I think I probably land on the grand goals quite a bit. I mean, the NFL, huge goal. As an athlete in judo, my goal was the Olympics. So I think I probably land on the grand goals a little more than the little baby steps.
Is that something you carry into the rest of your life?
Yeah, I think I do. I I believe that I probably sometimes maybe could be a little more balanced, and I've worked on that, because life is not always grand. There's a lot of steps in between, and I always feel like I have this desire to do more, to be more, and sometimes that's a lot. That's a lot of responsibility, a lot of weight. I see things, and I just want to make a difference. I want to, I'm one person, but I always feel like there's a platform that I have with people that work for me, and as a group, we should be able to do more. We're not just 500 individuals. As a group, there should be things we could get, band together and we can do. And so I have those ideas in my mind, and that is kind of one of the things I do focus on. Is I want to see us make a difference for the lives of the people around us.
What are some of the projects in your life right now?
Well, one project recently was getting my book published, which I was
That's a
able to do.
project.
Yeah, yeah, it was years of work to get that done. But so it was published in September of last year, which is great. So I've been doing some things with that, doing some speaking and some book signings and things like that. I do have other things, that charitable type things, that I want to see pick back up a little more. Used to do more with that through my business, which I sold, but just want to kind of pay it forward and do what I can to help others, inspire people, and just put the story out there and see. Hopefully, it'll make a difference for some individuals and some lives.
Moving from an NFL official, which is a huge deal, to inspiring others, what bits of wisdom would you pass along to others trying to figure out this roadmap called life?
I think one thing that I would have to tell people is, when I was, going through this journey of trying to become an NFL official, I didn't have any balance in my life. I didn't have balance with my family. I didn't have balance with anything else other than this tunnel vision of doing everything I could to become an NFL official. Is that what it takes to reach your goals? I don't know, maybe. But I feel like there has to be some balance. And if I could say anything to anybody that is maybe along that journey, is don't forget about the things that are way more important, which is your family, which is your friends, which is God. I mean, for me, I lost my way with God through part of my story, which if you read it, I'm very honest about the mistakes I made along the way, and I still make. And then beyond that, I would say that don't be afraid to dream. I say this all the time. Don't be afraid to dream big. But remember, you got to work hard. And then, like I mentioned earlier, for me, you just got to trust God, and it's got a plan. All right, his plan's not always ours, but he's got a plan.
Speaking of plans that were not yours, you had a nasty incident in a hospital, didn't you?
Yes.
What happened?
I don't know exactly why I landed in the hospital, other than I'd been dealing with some extreme headaches, and it kind of hit a low point with that. I guess my blood pressure had dropped, and so friends took me to the hospital and couldn't quite figure out what was going on. Don't know. Who knows? I hate to say it. Who knows? Could it have been stress? I have no idea. To this day, they really could not figure out what or why I was having such extreme headaches, and had a procedure in the hospital that went bad, and woke up after that procedure, had some numbness in my legs, and it was kind of a one of those nightmares you felt like you were trapped in. But God willing, everything's great. I got past it. It was some weeks of rehab to, walk and things like that, but everything is good now.
You worked hard to get past that. I mean, you didn't know that you would come out the other side being able to walk.
That's true. I mean, they said nerve damage is very unpredictable, and that's basically what happened through the procedure. They caused some nerve damage, and it's one of those things where I could have woke up the next day, everything would have been great, or it could have been weeks, months, years. They really couldn't predict. But thank you, God, it all worked out.
And you never let go of your dream.
Nope.
What are some of your best NFL stories?
Ooh, most of my stories about the NFL that I love to share really don't even have anything to do with football. I do have one that does have to do with football, but the stuff that really with the NFL that just to this day just warms my heart is the people that I met along the way, the fans that cheered for me, the little girl who so desperately wanted a picture with me, and things like that. A soldier in uniform that came up to me before the game and asked to speak to me and wanted to get a picture with me, or the owners from one of the organizations coming down and saying, "Hey, we want a picture. This is history." Just the outpouring of love and support, and I could not have been more loved and well received from the fans, the players, the owners. It was, to this day, it warms my heart.
Your comments on balance are interesting. You're absolutely right. I agree with you. We need balance in our lives, but I'm not sure that we learn to have balance until we have unbalance.
I think you're right. I think you're right. I certainly learned a lot of lessons along the way about not having balance in my life. So I think that's a really, really good way of putting it. Until you have, I'm gonna steal that.
Well, it kind of
Hmm.
goes along with duality. I mean, you don't know hot till you know cold. You don't know dark till you know light. And I have certainly in my little life pushed the limits on either side. And I'm not sure it was always very pretty, but I certainly learned. And I think that to some extent, the farther you push those limits, while the lessons can be hard, oh my gosh, you walk away with a lot more wisdom.
I would agree, and it's rewarding. I mean, you know, things don't come easy. Life isn't easy,
No.
and having things handed to you on a silver platter. Well, that's all well and great, but there's so much more reward when you work for it and you go through the fire to see the end result. And that's where, I mean, you see such value, and like I said, it's so rewarding.
Well, you own it. When somebody
Absolutely.
gives you something, you don't own it, you haven't earned it. And whatever you do, no matter I think, no matter where life takes you, once you own that set of skills or experiences, you just build on them. And that's pretty
100%.
cool. Nobody can take that
Absolutely.
from you.
100%.
And I think you can have balance over time. I'm not sure you can have balance in an interval of time.
Mm. I have to really process that. I think you're right.
Because I think to achieve anything requires real dedication, enormous hours in work, focus to the exclusion of other things sometimes, and I'm not sure that there's a way around that. I'd like to think there is, but I don't know how many people have the wisdom to try to navigate a new challenge without having things go out of balance.
Well, it's certainly through the out of balance times that I think we learn the most.
And they're fun sometimes.
Sometimes. Not always.
Okay, what was not fun? I mean, getting to the NFL is so cool. What was not fun?
Oh, just like I said, for me, and you've read the story, I made some mistakes. I made some really just choices that I'm not proud of, and I had to learn some hard lessons. But I've moved past them. There's forgiveness. So
If
those would probably be the times that were very challenging for me.
if you could rewrite your story, would you?
I I don't think I could. Think my story is meant to be pretty much exactly what it is.
What advice would you give a young person growing up, finding a passion? What what would you pass along to them?
I love it that you said passion. I recently did a talk and talked a lot about passion, and I think everybody is born with a passion for something. Whether in my case it was sports, it could be cooking, it could be writing, it could be who knows. But everybody is born with a passion for something, and to find that passion and to tap into it is a beautiful thing. And